Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'll be working on my weeping style cedar, or my Thuja occidentalis, and it needs repotting and a bit of styling. This tree continually got stronger and stronger in its growth over the summer last year, and I felt it needed a new pot, a slightly larger size pot. And so my intent was to repot it this spring. And when I brought the tree out from the basement, I went to pick it up and I noticed that the pot had cracked in half. And I can take that one section away. And you can see all the roots in here. Filled the pot. So I was hoping to design and 3D print my own pot for this tree. I thought that would be a really fun project to do. However, everything's shut down in the city, so I don't have access to the 3D printer at the library. So I'm going to have to find a pot that I can put this in, repot it, and continue to grow the tree over the summer. I have no idea what kind of quality this pot was, but my reluctancy to use clay pots on hardy trees continues. So I'm going to try and find a composite pot or a plastic pot that I can plant this in to avoid getting cracked pots over the winter. I had a look around in my pot collection, and I don't have a lot of pots that are suitable for a Cascade style tree. I have this one, but it's pretty well the same size as the pot the tree is in now. And this pot has never had a tree in it. It stayed outside, protected in the winter, and you can see the lip is already cracked away and fallen apart. So a useless pot, cheap, crappy pot. I do have this pot, which is a nice quality Japanese pot. To use a shallower pot like this, you would need it on top of a stand, so the tree would sit on top of a stand and the tree could cascade down. So that's maybe a possibility. I have this composite pot or plastic pot. I'd have to drill a drainage hole in the bottom. This pot has been outside in the winter for quite a few years. I got it a long time ago. And so it's really durable. That might do. I've got this handmade pot my sister made back in high school many years ago. I don't think it would look very good in that pot. It's too highly styled. I have this brass pot that, again, I could sit that on top of a stand and have the tree cascade off. So that could be a possibility, the brass one. This is a pinch pot. It's high quality clay and it's fired to a nice high temperature. It's just made by pinching a slab of clay into this shape. I don't think it would suit the tree. If it was a little deeper, maybe, but I'm just, I don't know. So that's my choices. Not a lot, and they're not very good choices, but I'll try the tree in each pot, just kind of test fitting it and see what might look the best. I'm going to use this block of wood to represent my fancy handcrafted stand that the pot would sit on. So I'll place that here, and then I'll try each pot out one at a time, kind of placing the tree behind to try and see what it would look like. I'll show you all the possibilities now. So here's that pinch pot. So the tree would sit somewhere about there. So that gives you an idea of what that looks like. The next pot I'll try is this brass one with the dragons on it. I don't know. That's kind of what that would look like. The next one I'll try is the tall kind of cascading pot, which, let's get the good side of it. It's too similar to what it's in now, but a different style pot anyway. Yeah, there's that possibility. There's this little kind of square one. That would look like that. And the one my sister made, kind of a spiral groove pot. That's what that would look like. And last but not least is this kind of big plastic pot, and it's quite big. You can see it's like at least, I don't know, 5 times the volume of this previous pot. So it would definitely be a pot for this tree to grow large in. So that's what that would look like. I'll review the choices and make my decision. The other possibility is I venture out and try and buy a pot. Chris Hendry's, the bonsai guy, may still be open for business, but I don't know. So I'll review these pots, the ones I have on hand, and if I don't like any of them, then I'll have to think of another solution. I've been looking at all the pots and I don't like any of them except this sort of Cascade style pot. And if I repotted this tree, I would want to reposition it so this part of the trunk is hanging vertical. So I would plant the tree over this side of the pot, and then you would see all these surface roots going into the top of the soil, or the surface of the soil, sort of like that. I don't know if you can get a good view of it on the camera there, but I think that's how it would have to be planted. This going vertical and then shooting back straight, straight up. So it definitely looks best in one of these tall Cascade style pots. All the other pots just look too, even this one, it just looks too much pot, too heavy looking. That may improve as this tree goes larger in the future, but for now, I need something, maybe just a little bigger than this one. And this one is the same size, so. Yeah, so that's my dilemma. I don't really have a pot for this tree, and it needs repotting because it's all cracked, this pot. So, let me think. I was looking at the planting. Now, I don't have, if I have this hanging vertical, between the edge of the pot where the roots go into the pot and this vertical trunk, I don't have a lot of distance. So I can't have a pot with a big lip like this. In fact, a pot that didn't have a lip, you can see on the old pot it hardly had a lip at all. So even one that had absolutely no lip would be the best. And then I could have the roots coming right out to the edge of the pot, and it wouldn't look like, this part of the trunk is too tight to the lip of the pot. It would give the most amount of space possible in here. So this style, this big compasses style that doesn't have a lip would be the ideal style of the pot if it was smaller and taller. But it's not, so I'm going to look around some more. Maybe I do have a pot somewhere like that that doesn't have a lip on it. I have this Chinese flower pot, but that looks horrible. Can't do that. I had another look around, and I found this candle holder that I can replace this wooden block with to represent my stand. And I found a few more pots. I found an oval one. It's quite an old pot. It's starting to get some natural cracking in the glaze. I don't know what that'll look like. Probably not very good. Yeah, too wide. If it was kind of like that, that doesn't look too bad. That height, that width, no lip on the pot like that. That could look okay. Except, you can't use an oval shaped pot. I've got this square green one. That's not too bad. It doesn't have a lip. It's not huge. It's kind of in the right ballpark. Possibility. And then I have this silly looking Value Village Special for $1.99. That's no good. Again, if it was sideways, it's close, but it has a lip too. That's no good. So let me look at this green one again. The green one's a good possibility. It doesn't look too bad. It's the best choice I have so far anyway. I'm kind of leaning towards this green pot, and I was looking at the pot and, you know, trying to pick a front for the pot. And if you look at the pot from this view, the glaze kind of goes on an angle down to this foot. So this foot looks larger than this one, and maybe not the best front. And if I go over here, it's not too bad. I've got a blob of darker green glaze here, which may kind of distract your eye from the tree. I don't know. This one, the glaze again goes on an angle. I don't like that at all. This view is not too bad. Everything's fairly plain. The glaze is fairly even across the front. It's a little high here, but I think this is probably the best front. Even though it has that kind of blob, the glaze looks the best, and so that would be the front of the pot. Now I've got to decide if I want to commit to using this pot. I don't think this is a really high quality pot. It looks like the clay is a cross between terracotta and you know, real bonsai clay. So I don't know. If I put it in this pot, it'll just be to train it this summer. Certainly wouldn't be its final home. I've been looking at the tree, and this isn't too bad a front, but it has a branch that's coming straight towards the viewer, and the trunk is very plain in this view. If I rotate it around to this side, I've got really nice deadwood in the trunk here where the tree's healed. I do have this branch coming straight towards the viewer. I think it's a really nice Cascade branch, but you know, I could wire it off to the side, but it always originates from the front here, which is a bit of a problem. I could angle the tree so you're looking in more this direction maybe, but then it kind of crosses this curve here, so that wouldn't look good. If I angled it backwards, it just doesn't look good. It looks like the whole tree's going away from you. So I think if I pick this as the front, and it should be the front for the interesting trunk, that I would have to remove this beautiful Cascade branch that just grew there naturally. So yeah, so it's either got to be remove this branch, or if this is the front, I'd have to remove this one. So, and this is definitely the plainer side of the tree. It's quite, you know, almost boring in that section. So this really has character. So that would have to be the front of the tree. I'm going to do the styling work on the top of the tree first. And to hold the pot together while I'm doing that, so it doesn't fall apart and dry the roots out, I'm going to try sticking it in this pot. Does that work? It sort of works, and it holds the pot together while I'm working on the tree so it doesn't fall apart. I was checking around to see if there's a better pot to hold it together, one that fit a little better, and I found this stand, which has an opening in the top. Just fits this pot in there really nicely, so that'll hold it together and give me a good view of maybe the final composition while I'm working on the tree. So that worked out okay. My first step will be to remove that lower branch, and the question is, do I remove it entirely, so making a flush cut, or do I leave a stub and make it a gin, so it looks like a branch was there but it died? The criteria, you know, which I would do is, if I leave a stub there, it interrupts the flow line of the trunk. So your eye kind of follows down the trunk, and then if you had a piece of deadwood there, it would break up that flow, that visual flow of the trunk. Sometimes you might want that, and sometimes you don't. So in this case, I don't want anything interrupting this curve at the bottom of the tree. So I would prune that off flush. A piece of deadwood here wouldn't add any value to the tree. It wouldn't make the tree look older or anything. It would just look like you removed a branch there and you left some deadwood. It doesn't add any artistic value to the tree. So I'm going to come in here with the cutters, and I will try and prune that nice and flush. So I'm going to just cut it off for starters. Maybe here, like that. So that's gone. And stepping back, so if you look at the visual appeal of it now, you know, your eye kind of follows the trunk, and then it goes downhill. It takes your eye away from following the tree up to the apex. So I definitely don't think that would add any value, having some deadwood there. So off it comes. And I'm going to come in and prune it flush like that. So you can see it left a fairly large wound there, but this tree is going to grow quite a bit this summer. It'll thicken up, and that wound will heal over really nicely, and maybe even add some nice character to the trunk in that section. The next steps for the tree is to prune it more compact to get it to look like a miniature tree. So all these long branches will have to be brought back, probably creating a sort of a rounded triangular profile to the tree. I've seen a lot of cedars like this growing at Rattlesnake Point. They kind of come off the cliff face, and then they're kind of reaching out for the light, competing with the other trees, and then when they get their own spot of sunlight, they grow straight up. So I don't see putting any curves or anything into this trunk of the tree, or redirecting the apex at a different angle. I think, you know, to make this look natural, I want this section of the trunk just to go straight vertical. I'll keep it pruned, but I don't see putting any extra movement into this tree. I think as it is now, it looks really natural. So I may start at the apex on the styling, just getting my apex compact and then working down the tree. If I start at the bottom, I'd be guessing where to prune this branch off, because, you know, I want to keep that sort of rounded triangular profile. So I think a lot of that is determined by how compact I can get the top, and then the second branches and so on. So I think I will start at the apex for today. To help with the styling, I'll put the tree on Adrian's spinning tree bonsai turntable. So now it makes it easier to style the tree. You can rotate it around and get at it from all angles. So again, thanks Adrian. So right now the tree is really bushy and shaggy. The growth isn't very compact. You can't really see any branch structure or anything. So I'm going to reduce it back, and I'll just, you know, reduce it back a bit at first, pruning off some of the new growth, always leaving, you know, some green on the tips of the branches, some healthy green foliage. Otherwise, if you take too much off, you could kill off the branch. So lots of branches in here to choose from. Some long sections here that can be removed. When a cedar's growing really vigorously, they call them rocket branches. Instead of getting this, well, you know, nice fine foliage on it, they'll get these columnar shoots that just skyrocket upwards, and they grow really vigorously, and, you know, there's not any leaves on them. They'll eventually develop leaves, but yeah, you can get these long straight sections of branches that shoot up. So generally I prune most of those off take the vigor out of those sections, keep them compact and under control. Any branches growing in towards the center of the tree I'm removing. There's one growing straight up I'll remove. Like that. Making everything more compact. Now again, on this tree, branches near the apex, I want them pointing upwards. In the middle of the tree, they want to be more horizontal, and at the bottom of the tree, they'll cascade. So you'll see this in nature a lot. You know, the apex is vigorous and everything's growing upwards towards the light, and the older branches are drooping down under the weight of their own branches. So I'm using directional pruning, and here I'm, leaving the upright shoots. In the middle, the upright shoots are coming off, like this one. And there's one here, to get a more horizontal branch. And then on the lower ones, definitely anything growing upright comes off. So I'm just going to roughly prune this lower branch. I know I don't want it sticking out any further than here where it starts turning upwards, so I'll get rid of this part of the branch like that. Kind of gives you more of an idea of what the tree will look like. I do like this one hanging branch down here, the way it curves underneath. I think that's really nice. There's a branch here that's covering up the main trunk. I don't want that, so I'll get rid of that right here. So that's gone. And there's also some foliage hanging down here, which I don't want. So that can come off like that. Now, this branch coming forward is very long, and it kind of, a lot of this foliage is hiding your view of the trunk, so I definitely want to prune that one back to some healthy growth. So I would say let's try it here for now, like that. I've got a branch out here that's quite long that needs pruning back, so I'll have to decide where to go on that one. I think right here for now. It's better to prune a little longer at first and then slowly reduce the tree down as you see more and more of the tree. I've got some branches hanging down here that are covering up the trunk line. And at this point I want my branches horizontal, not weeping. So the weeping part will have to come off. Alright, so my crown is here. This one's sticking out a lot, so let's get that one reduced back. So that one is near the apex, so I do want it to rise up. So I'll prune off this cascading branch. There's one coming horizontal here. I'll get rid of that. Keeping my upright growth this time. I'm pruning this one back. This one back. Still a little long. I don't know how much I can reduce it. Well, there's a branch back here, so I could take it back. So I will. I'll take it right back to here. Just take the tip off this one. I got that in check. I don't know if I can reduce it back any further. Oh yeah, I can. There's another branch back here, so I can take that part of it off. That brings that in check with the profile. So it looks like my profile is kind of coming down here. I'm a little long on this branch, so I'll reduce it back a bit. I think to at least here. Like that. Maybe it's still too long. I'll take it back further. Just trying to see if there's anything coming off the bottom here. Not a lot. I could take it back to this one. I'll try that. Back to there. Up the back there's a long one. I can reduce this one back further. I want to keep some nice healthy foliage, so I'll take it back to here for now. Another one here I can take back to here. There's quite a few branches that need pinching back, some of these long ones, so I'll do that. You just pinch them back, getting them more compact. There's some shoots on the top of this branch I'll want to remove, keeping this branch as a weeping style branch. My Cascade branch down here, because it's a Cascade branch, you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but it comes from here and it follows this trunk line exactly. It comes out and curves down. So this branch echoes the main trunk line, which is really nice to have. So I'm not going to touch that branch at all. I want that to thicken up and grow in vigor, because right now it's very skinny and you can see how it moves around. So I want that to thicken up so I get that echoing of the trunk in this branch down below. So I think that'll be a nice feature of the tree. So I'll continue to do a bit of pruning and pinching. Now, you don't have to pinch at all. If you pinch these branches, it'll pinch it off at a segment of the scale-like foliage, so you get less browning at the tip. When I'm pruning it, I'm just kind of cutting through anywhere, and I'll get a little more browning at the tip, but that quickly goes away. So if this tree were going into a show or something, you'd want to carefully, hand pick all the tips off to get them more compact to avoid browning. But because this tree is just going to grow this summer, I'm using the scissors. It doesn't really matter which technique you use at this point. We have a train going by. I've been looking at this branch here, and it's kind of an important branch, because if that was removed, you can see that the branch above runs at the same angle as the trunk line. So this one kind of breaks that up a bit. It's a transitional branch that goes, from the cascading horizontal to the upright branches. So I don't want to remove that, even though this branch kind of crosses in front of the trunk line a bit. I just want to pinch it back a bit, cleaning it up. Yeah, so that branch is kind of important to leave on the tree. Just getting all these branches more compact so they're not quite so loose looking. You don't want them all, too loose. You don't want them too tight either. It's got to look like a cedar, but you don't want them so loose that it doesn't look miniature. There's always a fine line between too artificial looking and too natural, unkept, with no bonsai techniques at all. I've got a lot of the tops sorted out. Now, this Cascade branch, there's a lot of other hanging branches coming from that branch that comes out the side. So I want to get rid of all that hanging foliage and just keep my one cascading branch here. So I will do that. And this foliage is just hanging off this back branch here, so it's not even in a good location. That's got that space opened up here now, so you can see that flowing branch. Looks much better. Bit of pinching at the back here. Sort these branches out. I think I've got the basic structure cleaned up now. So the apex, you can see here, I've got to grow that up a bit. There was kind of a, there's kind of a bit of a false apex. There was one of these branches had one coming over here. So these, now that they have light, they'll shoot up and kind of complete that triangular form. Yeah, there'll be more decisions coming up on the styling of this tree in the future for sure. It's very young. This tree was growing in a pathway and it had been stepped on many, many times. And Julian and I saw it and I thought, oh, that's kind of an interesting little tree. It was very small when I dug it up, and we dug it up, and it sat neglected for a year, and then I decided to put it in a Cascade pot, and it's really thickened up a lot since I first got it. When I first got it, it was just something probably half that size. It was mostly dead wood. I wasn't even sure if it was going to live at first, but it did. So it's definitely a good, strong survivor of a tree. I'll give it a water now. I don't want this drying out with this crack in the pot. Where is it now? Right here. I'm going to keep it in this stand, water it, and get get that root mass all watered. And it'll be ready to grow again for 2020. I'll give the tree a water now. Use my, I don't know if that's a bit clogged up. Use my little tiny watering can. So I've got to wet the surface of the soil first. Miss the tree a bit. Let that soak in. You see it's still beaded up here. The moss was a little dry. I'm just starting to soak in now, so I'll give it another watering like that. I kept watering it, and now I see there's water dripping out of the drainage hole in the bottom of the pot, so I know, and it's taking the water really well. It's just kind of soaking in right away now, draining down, so that's good. It's all hydrated. Because the pot fits so nicely in the stand, it keeps it together so it won't dry my roots out. I'm going to hold off the repotting until I find a suitable pot. So hopefully by then maybe I can 3D print a pot, or I can get to the bonsai guy and find a nice pot that would suit this tree. You can repot these cedars quite late in the year. The needles don't start growing till early June around here. So I have a good month at least where I can look for a pot and do my repotting then. I'll spin the pot around now and we'll have a final look at this small cascading cedar. So here we are, kind of the front. This could be a front someday also, over here. There's a lot of possibilities to come with this tree. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is the small cedar tree that Scott Winnard and I worked on last fall. It looks like it got through the winter without any problems. All is looking good on the tree. I do want to reduce this deadwood here. It looks like a shark's tooth or something. It doesn't look like a branch at all, so I'm going to do that today. There's another one out the back here that needs to be fixed up. I'm going to prune the moss also. You can see it's just starting to green up, and I want to get it, lower so when it does grow it looks nice. It's not too large and fluffy. I'll scrub the trunk down a bit. There's a bit, this was in the basement all winter and it's very damp down there, and I noticed there's a bit of, I don't know if it's might be a bit of mold or something growing on the bark there. So I'll just scrub it with a toothbrush, kind of clean it up a bit. I think on this deadwood, because it's such a thick junction here, I think it would look better if this branch was sort of angled upwards, sort of like this one here, where it's grown thick because there is a branch reaching for the sky. So I'm going to reduce it at the bottom and the top here to get it to look slimmer and like it's angling upwards, like most branches do on a cedar. So I'll come in here at the top and I'll kind of nibble away at it a bit, kind of peeling the bark or the wood back a bit, kind of creating a natural, pulling it with the grain of the wood. Like that. And then I'll want to reduce the length down a lot shorter. So I'm thinking of coming in maybe here, pruning it off like that. And then if I can, I'll come in at the bottom here. Take some more off. Like that. It looks better. I think it's still too long. It's a little too much of a feature, and so I'm going to reduce it in length a bit. That looks more natural. There's one coming from the front that's poking directly in your eye, like an eye poker branch, and I'm going to remove that. I just don't like that at all. So that's gone. Yeah, it looks better. And there's one out the back here that doesn't look so hot either. Yeah, I think that looks okay. It's a little more natural looking. I'll get out the curved scissors and just prune the moss back. So when it grows in, it'll be nice and compact. It won't be, this huge fluffy ball, like I said. I was going to head to the United Kingdom to meet Scott Winnard, and we were going to participate in Peter Chan's workshop this spring, but everything's being put on hold, so it'll have to wait for another time. I'm going to clean up the bark, just rubbing it lightly. So here comes the gong. And I'll just give it a light scrubbing, just to get that white residue off, which I think is maybe a bit of white mold because it was in the basement, or it could be, fertilizer that's built up on the surface of the roots there. But whatever it is, I'm going to give it a clean. Starting to get some nice flaky bark on this tree. So I think that's got it. I wasn't very much there at all. There's a little bit of moss on the tree, but for now it looks quite nice because it's such an unusual looking tree. So I'll just leave it at that. Clean up the lip of the pot here a bit. I'm going to let this tree grow for the summer, and Scott is hoping to come down for the US National Show this year. So we'll be traveling to that together. And by then I hope this tree is grown in and we can do another styling on it in the fall. So if all goes well, Scott and I will be back at this tree once again. Scott has his own YouTube channel called Let's Do Bonsai, so you can go and check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'll rotate our tree around so you can have a final look at it. A most unusual tree, but very interesting. And back to the front. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.